Sarah. My name is Miri. Welcome. I am the Chief Executive Officer at the Friends of the Arava Institute, which works to support the Arava Institute and recruit students and interns from the U.S. to study at the Institute. If you know someone who might be interested in an internship, we think student recruitment will be very hard this year because universities are not sending people to Israel. I can't imagine why not. But interns are free to go, and we do have some special scholarship money available. So encourage people to apply for either a semester or a year. The Arava Institute is a leading environmental academic and research institute in the Middle East that has its accredited academic programs, research centers, and international cooperation initiatives focusing on a range of environmental concerns and challenges. Our work advances environmental cooperation in the face of political conflict. With student body composed of Jordanians, Palestinians, Israelis, and participants from around the world, and even there today, as you will hear, the Institute's work is changing lives on the ground and building trust, the scarcest resource in the Middle East, especially now. None of us could have imagined how 2023 would unfold, but our work has become even more important. Today, we are here to learn more about the academic program on the ground and how the Institute's leaders and faculties have approached teaching during a time of war. Please put your questions in the Zoom chat for a Q&A at the end. I'm pleased to introduce both Dr. Jessica Schackermann and Dr. Miri Lavi-Neeman. Dr. Schackermann is the Institute's academic director. She holds a doctorate in natural sciences from Leuphana University in Germany and has conducted postdoctoral research at Hebrew University. Prior to her work at the Institute, she worked for a program to develop a joint network of Israeli and Palestinian climate experts, and she has worked as a scientist for the Dead Sea and Arava Science Center and the Agricultural R&D in the Southern Arava since 2018. Her research includes long-term socio-ecological research and agroecology. She knows a lot about bats. We are also pleased to have with us Dr. Miri Lavi-Neeman. Born in Jerusalem, Dr. Lavi-Neeman received a doctorate in geography from UC Berkeley and was the founding editor of Israel's first journal for social environmental education, HaKadur B'Yadenu, The Ball is in Our Hands. Her research draws on political ecology, critical human geography, development theory, and critical ethnography, and her recent projects focus on the new epistemologies, there's the word I should have practiced, of climate change and the relationship between conservation, science, and territorial struggles in the desert. In addition to her research at the Institute, she teaches political ecology and environmental education. She is a very popular member of our faculty, and I look forward to learning from both of you. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for the introduction. Yeah, as you can imagine, the last couple of weeks have been very, very challenging in the whole of Israel, but also at the Arava Institute. Our semester starts earlier than the semesters of the other universities in Israel. So before the 7th of October and before the war unfolded, we already were in the middle of our semester. We were already teaching. We had already all of our students on campus, all of our interns on campus. And I think we all felt like we just were hit by something. I can't explain it better. And it was a situation where it was difficult for us to grasp and also difficult to make decisions on what to do and where to go from there and how to deal with everything. So me as the academic director, I had to make decisions about the academic program. But as you can imagine, we don't have just the academic program at the Arava Institute. We also have our Campus Life team because all the students are living together. So imagine you have Palestinians, Israeli Arabs, you have internationals, you have Israeli Jews. You have them all together, all on campus, all living together, and suddenly they all get this news. We do have students from the Gaza envelope, so from the directly impacted areas, which made it even more difficult because they were just devastated. And I think it was very difficult for all the students to grasp what is happening and to take a step forward and continue in whatever way. What we did, we had a lot of meetings with the students. So the Sunday after, I was on campus. I was sitting with the students and I was listening, basically, mainly listening. And so did the whole team. The whole team of the academics, the whole team of Campus Life was busy with sitting with the students and listening and exchanging feelings and thoughts and trying to give support. Surprisingly, really surprisingly, this group is amazing. Like this group of students, and I think Miri later will like just support me in this. They have shown so much empathy for one another. They have shown so much support for one another to a level that is really hard to understand, because many of them are supposed to be on opposite sides, right? And talking to students, we understood that for them, being on opposite sides is a very difficult thing now. Like, what does that even mean? We are friends. We are here together. We are sitting together. We are learning together. We are making dinner together. What is just happening? What is happening to our environment, to our region? So after pausing the academics for one day, we didn't teach for one day, the Sunday after. We decided, after talking to the students, that it would be good to have some kind of framework, that it would be good to give people something other than to look at the news, to think all day about what is happening, but to have some other space that gives some other kind of thing to do, basically. So the next day, on Monday, we decided to slowly start teaching again. Shorter courses, less lessons. And we decided to do a lot of hands-on. Meaning, instead of sitting just in the classroom, let's go outside. If you study environmental studies, especially the natural science part of it, you can go outside and you can have an agroecology course or an agricultural sustainability course, and you can look at the bees that are doing the pollination instead of just sitting inside and hearing about the bees, how they do pollination. You can do gardening instead of just hearing about how a compost works. So that is what we did. We decided to continue our semester. We decided to keep our campus open. We decided to continue teaching together with the faculty, who I must say has been also very amazing and supportive. Also there, it's not obvious that everyone did what they did. Just imagine you're impacted by this. You're impacted by this war. You know, everyone knows someone. Everyone has some kind of close family, far family, whatever that has been heavily impacted. I mean, heavily impacted, like lost people. So imagine these people that are sitting there and teaching other people about things that are not necessarily related to what is happening right now at the moment. So kudos to the faculty and to the lecturers for really keeping it up. And I mean, everyone did, not just some of the faculty. Everyone agreed that we continue teaching and that we are doing our best. And I know it wasn't easy for everyone. I could see people struggle. I could see faculty struggle. I could see people I work with struggle, and I could see students struggle. But everyone collectively decided to continue learning, continue teaching, and continue the work that we are doing, because everyone, I think, realized how important it is that we continue to do what we are doing, because what we are doing is try to counteract this violence, to create different way, to create dialogue, to work together, to have a common ground, to have a base. And so everyone understood that even if it's hard and even if it's difficult and even if we are all devastated and heartbroken, what we are doing is important. And so we had several meetings with faculty. Usually we have one faculty meeting in a semester at the beginning of the semester. I think we had, since the war started, we had 6 or 7 faculty meetings. To give the space to the faculty to talk to each other, to see what I feel in class. Is it for everyone like this? How are the students doing? How do you deal with things? How do we adjust? We had to adjust the teaching. We had to adjust the syllabus. Things had to be made in a way that assignment deadlines had to be postponed. No one could concentrate on assignments. Things had to come back to normal. I put that in exclamation marks. Slowly. So yeah, we did everything slowly. We did everything adjusted. And we also had to adjust to the fact that we have students on reserve duty. So some of our students have been called to the army. At the moment, we have 26 students on campus. We have 3 remote learning students. They are 2 of them are from universities of the United States. The universities of the 3 universities decided to pull their students out, to bring them back to the United States and to not let them stay with us. Even though you have to understand, we are sitting in our kind of safe bubble down here. We are relatively far away from the mess, and we get nearly no to Ketura had like 1 siren. That's all. We have 1 Palestinian who decided because of family pressure to go back to the West Bank and study remotely from there. And everyone else stayed. No student besides this 1 Palestinian decided out of their own accord that they want to go back. Everyone wanted to stay. Everyone wanted to support one another. Everyone wanted to continue learning and wanted to continue with the important work that is done here. 1 student that was pulled out by an American university petitioned against it. She thought that it's the most important thing to stay and to support and to be in Ketura and to be in this place in the time of war, in the time of crisis. And it was granted. She came back just yesterday. So she's back with us in Ketura. And we have 6 interns. They are all still here besides 1 who went home to visit family. And now the checkpoints are closed. So he's really trying hard to come back, but he can't. He's just stuck. And he's doing his internship remotely. And he's one of the most active interns. Like, he's with us in touch all the time. He really wants to come back. He's doing his TAing. He's a teaching assistant. He does it remotely and he does it excellently. So I must say I'm very, very proud of the students this semester. I'm very proud of the faculty this semester. I'm very proud of my team this semester. I think you can see how well people do in times of crisis. You can see how good of a team you have in times of crisis, and just everyone, pulled everything together and functioned in the best possible way they could. So I can't say it better, but I'm very proud of everyone. We are back to as normal as possible teaching. I'm myself not teaching much this semester. I did some guest lectures. And Miri is the one who's teaching. She has having a full course, and Miri is also having a course that probably is impacted most by the situation. And she has a lot of students in her course. So I think, Miri, what do you think? What do you say about this semester and the adaptations and the adjustments that were made?
Okay, first, thank you all for coming to hear us, and Miriam and Sarah for inviting us to talk. I first want to amplify, what Jessica said. I think, I was very scared to teach, the day after, and I think There is a sense of a really, really strong team and also a very strong cohort at Arava. And eventually I feel it also filled us with purpose and a little bit of, distraction from things that happen. It was extremely difficult at the beginning. I teach was difficult because, as Jessica said, this is a very small country. All of us are affected by this. I was in the first week in 4 funerals, and it was not the last ones. And I have very good friends from the envelope who were directly impacted. And throughout this month, I've been, supporting them. So the beginning was really rough, and I teach a course that is also it's not a natural science course. It's a very theoretical course. It's a political ecology course. This is critical theory, progressivist critical theory, everything that is now being infamously mentioned. It's also a very rigorous course, so it entails a lot of reading and discussing, and it's a hardcore theoretical course, and there were several challenges all of a sudden. But the first thing I think that was, to me, the most confusing is that I was thinking, okay, I'm stepping into the class and I'm teaching political theory that should be, relevant and should be. So what do I do the day after? What do I want to say? What do I want to talk about when all these horrifics are outside the class? It's not business as usual. I can't do that. And eventually I understood that I'm asking the wrong question, that I need to ask myself, how do I want us to feel in this class? And not just, what do I want to say, me? And that directed, the first week, 2 weeks of teaching. And I really, it's not that this class is about thinking and it's not about emotions. They have other classes where they, and maybe Jessica can say something about that, where they, express when they do dialogues and other things. But I still wanted to have in the class a sense of purpose. I wanted the class to be relevant. I want us to feel that we are together in this, even though we may not see things exactly the same. And in that, maybe I'll just map out like the challenges as I read them. One was really, how do to what degree do I let feelings and that sort of thing come into the class, and opinions, and there was also a question of, what do I do with the curriculum itself, with those parts that all of a sudden feel like it's not the right moment to discuss them. Maybe they're irrelevant, they're too marginal. It doesn't occupy our mind right now. It's not, things we grapple with right now. It's not exactly these things. So there was also the question of theory, theory itself. Is it the theory that I teach is helpful somehow now to anyone? What could theory provide us in moments like this? And of course, there was all these sensitivities of different people in the class that came, you never know. And every week is different. And you don't know, one of the week in which I was teaching recently was the week after the first hostages were released. It was a very intense day for everybody. So you never know what happened the day before you teach. So you don't know how in what kind of, to what situation you walk in the day after. So it was also really, really hard to plan and to respond to the changing reality outside. And this is in addition to the fact that we teach in a multicultural, binational, and very complex ethnic group. So I really tackled all of these tasks during the semester, in terms of, I changed subjects. I thought about what is our place as academics now, and what I did in very generally and was first, I switched some topics and I brought in Gaza into our class, not the current things in Gaza, but we certainly decided that to sort of, as Jessica really well, described it, to counter what we face outside, which is really flattening everything, and using theory in a very rigid way, and not necessarily in the way it was written. So we need to first keep in mind that we want to be really nuanced and complex and allow for really complicated positions in the class, and make sure we develop these positions, because this is what theoretical rigor is. We also we decided to think also about Gaza as one of our topics, because we thought that it would be a good idea to de-abstract. We just now see ruin and war and terror, and replace those things also with earlier, much earlier history. How did Gaza, what are the forces, the social forces, the history before the state of Israel that produced this area that we call the Gaza Strip, and the envelope around it. We also thought that our job in the class is really to be responsible for knowledge, so to counter populism and demagogy with really looking at things, seriously, and using critical theory in a serious way. So this was the goals we decided. So on the one hand, we brought more of what we see, the themes that we encounter outside in, but we also changed and used a lot of bigger theories to think through, and particularly those who can, provide us with something, with thinking about positive change and bring some hope into the picture. So constructivist theory with which we can work and think about future in a way. This was the other task we took upon ourselves.
Miri, from when everything started and you thought about going back to class, to teaching, after me as this crazy German person who likes to have a structure and order, what were the challenges you expected, and did it match, like, the challenges you actually faced in class coming back teaching from what you expected to face? Was there like an overlap, or was it completely different, or were you completely surprised?
I was positively surprised. I mean, I thought that I'm stepping in and I will need to support the students. And the first two classes that I taught were in Zoom because there were no schools. And my kid was at home. The first week, it wasn't clear if we were going to have sirens here or not. And I couldn't leave my kid just for hours and hours alone. And I was teaching in Zoom, which was not great, but it was much better to come back to campus. But when I came after 2 weeks in Zoom and was back to teaching face-to-face, they waited for me. They really, really waited for me. And they came to me and hugged me and said, "Are you okay? We were so worried about you. It's so good to see you." And they actually, they felt like they need to support also us in a certain way, because they were in this protected, area, less exposed. They knew I went to funeral and things like that. So in that sense, and other surprises was, I had 2 cases in which I taught something, and all of a sudden one of a student started crying in the middle of class and said, "Well, we're sitting here and we talk about this theory and it's important, but I can't do that." Like, we had a moment like this, and we just stopped and paused, and it was surprising, but very understandable, So we paused and we started a discussion about these questions. I mean, is it the question that I raised earlier, that they may have not considered before? What do we want to learn? Why are we learning? Is it moral to learn? They were also very interested, and we did we created a bank of messages of issue that it was like our daily corner of encouraging news or solidarity messages. We brought a lot of weekly update on collaborative projects, things that promote a little bit of optimism, because we decided that optimism is a moral position for us. So So that was something that it was surprising to me to see how committed they are to this, not to conflict and to, you know, resorting to their own, you know, miseries and opinion, but actually to those type of activities and initiative and practices.
So if you look at other semesters, how eager do you feel the students are to learn this semester after everything started, or how what are the differences to other semesters when you look at like the learning and the feeling in the classroom and so on?
You know, there is a challenge of not being outside. I mean, we were supposed to have a trip that is an important component in my class. So there is this, which is different. Usually we go out, we meet Bedouins, we visit some of my research site. And I think this is actually a really important thing that we do at Arava, and because it was planned for the right after the October 7th, this didn't happen. I think this is actually, and this is unrelated maybe to the war. I think this is a really, really serious group intellectually. They're really, really curious and committed intellectually, and they actually want to read and they want to learn. And I think maybe more than some other semesters, and to a certain degree like other semester, but I think that, you know, there is also, you know, in the past week, I felt like there was a weakening, you know, there is also an effect of an ongoing war and an ongoing that definitely is felt in class, but we try to uplift ourselves every time I feel that they're kind of, you know, getting a little bit, I don't know even how to call it, because they're not exhausted, they're actually really energetic, but they insisted we don't stop studying. They want to study, they want to do their assignment. I think in a way they even feel like they're doing something good for the situation through thinking about these issues at large. And
yeah, you brought up the trips. Unfortunately, we had to. We usually have a 3-day trip. It's a very educational trip. It's also a very good bonding opportunity for people. So obviously we couldn't take this bunch of students on a trip throughout the whole country when we don't know what's happening, and when there are many places impacted and some places not so safe. So we decided we had to cancel both our trips that we usually do in every semester, which of course the students understood. But we took them just on Friday. We took them to a trip in the region where they went to one of the kibbutzim here to Nordsmada with the ecology of the Arava course. We opened it up for everyone. And they learned about community-based conservation projects in the kibbutz. They met people from the kibbutzim. They went for a hike afterwards to get to know the desert a little bit better, to look at things in the desert, get to see something else. And the students came to me afterwards and they thanked me for it, and that we did that. It was very nice, very meaningful for them, and very like a gift. They called it a gift in this situation. And just today we took them. If I look a bit tired, it's because I was out from the early morning with the students. We went to the research farm of the other institute I work for, the Agricultural Research and Development Center. And I pulled all the researchers together, and we had like a full day at this research farm, getting to know all these projects, all the research, and outside. It was all outside. It was all on the ground. It was all really like see what's happening. They did a tasting of marula. They did a tasting of dates to get to know the different dates that are grown here. They did a tasting of the different citrus fruits. And they learned a lot of different topics connected to agriculture. And they did a treasure hunt in the meantime. So they were happy about that. And it's not the same like taking them for a 3-day trip, obviously, but that's the best we can do at the moment. So hopefully next week they will have or next week, your next teaching, they will have a good spirit when they come to your class, and maybe bring up some topics that they saw in the trips. if you look at this group, or if you look at what is happening at the Arava Institute, Miri, what gives you hope for the future when you think about it?
Can you were cut off. Can you just repeat the question? There is also
Yeah.
a question
So
in the chat box.
looking at the teaching, looking at the students, looking at everything's happening at the Arava Institute and your experience at the Arava Institute, what gives you hope for the future when you think about the future? Do you have any hope for the future?
Yeah, I think, there is one thing, when we look at an axis that on the one end has pessimism and then the other optimism, I think, I'm not always on the optimistic side, but I think hope is a different thing. Hope means that we must keep trying. And it's true both, for issues like climate change and, I think, the conflict that I see often as entangled. So hope is a different thing. Hope means that we keep trying, we keep working, we may fail here and there, we may not be all of the time on the same track of trying, but that we keep trying. And in that sense, I think the Arava Institute is a place of sanity. I think no one around me can be as full of hope as I am, because I see, moments of partnership and a desire. There is also something in this horrible crisis that actually amplified a lot of that actually created an alliance between people. I work in the desert with Bedouins in the Bedouin sector. A lot of Bedouins aligned with a lot of Israelis and vice versa. There is a lot of solidarity between this group, more than before the war. It's true also for solidarity groups. And I think Arava is one of those, initiative and practice. So it's a laboratory of trying hope in all sorts of ways. And also a place where people can comfortably say, yeah, this was horrible. We have the courage to, defend humanity and set, very clear values on what we don't accept. But there is also mutual sympathy for loss on both sides, and it's legitimate to hold that, which in other places outside the Arava Institute, it could feel lonely to hold to such position, depending where you are. So I think it's more important than ever.
Jessica, we had a question in the chat about whether the war has changed, heightened, or diminished the importance of our environmental education or initiatives that we're involved in, that the Arava Institute is involved in. I will say, in answer, I'm going to give a very small part of the answer to that, and then let you guys be the experts that you are. We did, before the war, have 7 atmospheric desalination, solar-powered units, Israeli manufactured, in Gaza at community centers and small hospitals, mostly around, not in Gaza City, mostly in smaller communities, working in partnership with a Palestinian nonprofit. And with the support of our donors, with the agreement of the Israel Civil Administration and the IDF. As a matter of fact, when we first did it, the IDF announced it before we got a chance to. I think they were pretty proud of themselves at the time. 3 of our units are still extant in the South. We know they're operating because we can see it online. And these 3 units are now working at complete capacity, providing clean water in those communities at 7,000 liters a day. The other ones have been bombed to smithereens. They're gone. Interestingly, after the conflict, 22 in May, yeah, I think it was 22 in May, we had only 3 units, and then we got requests like the next day for more units, because people understood that this was locally controlled and locally dealt with. They didn't have to rely on United Nations or aid, nor did they have to rely on Hamas to get them clean water. They could be self-reliant. But one of the things that I say about our students, and I think Miri's talk and Jessica has borne this out, is that they're brave. They come to be together to learn about the environment and to study together. So they've already, to some extent, I like to say, voted with their feet. They've shown up, and that's also true of our faculty, by the way. You know, people are driving from East Jerusalem to come teach. You know, our Palestinian faculty and our Israeli faculty are making the schlep across the desert to be there for the students. So there's some amount of self-selection in who our students are, but it's also some amount of common concern about the environment. So that's the question. Does the common concern about the environment, how is that affected by the war, and how will this affect us going forward? And we can also talk about the fact that some of our faculty is involved, I don't know about you guys, in thinking about the day after, and what the environment will look like there in terms of the Gaza Strip, and having non-Hamas Palestinian partners to work with, because we already have been working with these people, which makes us very unusual and kind of almost singular out there. So there's that piece of it too as well. But please, how does the environment affect
I think
this work?
Yeah, I think it's a question that you have to break down to pieces and levels, like many things in this region. Nothing here is easy, nothing here is gray, black and white. Everything is like in gray areas. We are still, like, not me personally, but the people that work with the people from Gaza are still in contact. They are still in touch. They are checking in on one another. We are checking in on students in Gaza. So there is this personal level still ongoing. People are asking for help to get their mothers out of Gaza. So there are still these connections, and I believe that the water desalination facilities will be something that this will continue. This work. There will be high demand for that. I think that we will have more cooperation and more projects on the environmental level, on the social environmental level with the Bedouin community, but I guess Miri can say more about that. Unfortunately, there is less funding now for environmental projects, for environmental education. It doesn't seem as important at the moment as it maybe looked before. So I think it depends on who you ask and what projects exactly you are talking about and looking for. I think the Arava Institute will continue to be very important, and the environmental education that we are doing will be very important, even from the demand. We still have students that reach out to us and ask for upcoming semesters, what will be happening in the next semester. We just had an open day, which was online, where we had 17 people joining us. There are never many more than that. I expected that the numbers will drop severely. We are afraid that the numbers will drop because we can't get Americans to come and study with us, because the universities will not agree. We won't be able to get permits for the Palestinians because it's not a situation to get permits. Like these kind of problems we are expecting. I'm not sure about the willingness of coming to study. I think we see more willingness and more effort from students reaching out than what we expected. And other projects, I think because our researchers are so personally involved in their projects and with the people on the ground where the projects are going on, and they're keeping these connections and this personal level, talking to each other throughout the war. So I think there will be environmental projects, environmental education projects in the future. Miri, what do you think?
Yeah, we can answer this question from several angles. There's, of course, the question that I think Miriam highlighted about the day after. I think people are now, both Palestinians in Gaza and Palestinians in general, and Israeli are now soaked in pain. And there is a need for institutions and spaces to hold a space for peace, because when people, when one group become a terrorist and the other feels, anti-Semitism, people are digging, and they're afraid, and they become really, really focused on their own pain and very defensive. And I think in terms of theory, and I think this is where both, climate change and environmental challenges, but also, living together in this space, I think, hold a position that we do not want to naturalize, not Gazan people, not the climate change and the climate crisis. We do not want to stick with the perception that this is the nature of things, and that means that we believe in politics, that we believe that all those things are consequences of the way we structure our society. So in that sense, there is no question. We are very committed to promoting both. We intend to keep doing what we've been doing all those years, and we've been doing since the first day of the war. We've been, posting blogs and petitions that advertise our stance, and now we are making sure that the future, environmental, social, political future in this area, and to us these are all entangled, they are the same, and we need to think about them right now. And we are developing some type of a Gaza plan, like Marshall Plan for the day after, in which we think on what do we do the day after there will be so much devastation and destruction. And it's, of course, this is not a sustainable thing, and climate change is not at any halt for us while we are at war. So these questions are crucial. So I think as a position, of course, I'm telling you, there is no other way. Jessica was describing something else. This is more the empirical evidence from the field that people are still interested in those things. And true, I work with Bedouins. I also have an intern who helped me work in a Bedouin project that is not just environmental education, but also environmental politics. And so there is interest, but I want to say, we are not acting as if there is no war. You can't just keep on going with environmental issues and subject and projects and education as if the world around us haven't changed. So now we need to think about Bedouins as indigenous people with a lot of, wisdom and with a lot of potential to be our partners in environmental projects that are also going unevenly through this war. So how do we do this? These are the new questions that we are trying to tackle. And the same goes for Gaza and the bank. And because we don't address environmental education question as if nothing has changed and it's just business, back to business. In that sense, it's not that we're just continuing what we've been doing so far.
I just want to, I'm gonna throw out a question that hasn't been asked, and then we'll get to some that one that has been asked. So in American universities, most of our participants in this thing are Americans, and American universities have not been doing so hot on getting along between pro-Israel or Jewish students and pro-Palestinian, whether that's in the classroom, whether that's in the protest, whether that's how administrations of the universities themselves have handled this. I mean, there's been just, how do we say it? It's been pretty bad. I'll just sum up. And sort of heartbreaking for a lot of people who are alumni of these universities who see this going on and go, what's happening here? Why is this so? Why this one? Why Palestine, Israel? Why not all the other conflicts and issues there are in the world? And here we sit in complete contrast to that, where our students, who are actually Palestinians and actually Israelis, sit together and work. And one of the things we've been talking about is, how do we bring this dialogue paradigm to American universities? This is something we're thinking about a lot. And, it's not like it's transferable, that, 20 or 30 or 40 people on a kibbutz in the middle of nowhere who are studying together and living together is not transferable to, I don't know, Cornell or Columbia or SUNY this or, Missouri State, I don't know, wherever. Why do you think that this, what's the special sauce, shall we say, of the Arava Institute? And the other question that was raised is, and I want to answer, someone asked about the day after and whether our alumni, not our students, but our alumni would be part of that. We already have a relationship with a nonprofit that works in Gaza, that comes out of Palestine, where we know these professionals. As Miri said, we are in touch with them. The people who were in touch with them before are in touch with them now. I tell you personally, I know some of these folks. And at one point, I was watching their Facebook messages and, they were going through a lot of pain, and it was painful to me. I wasn't ready to hear their pain on October 12th. But I didn't unfriend them. I stuck with it, realizing that they were just telling me their truth. And even though that was very hard for me, it was their truth. And that is what our students do with each other as well, I think. They tell each other their truth, and sometimes that's very difficult. But civil discourse and compassionate listening are really essential to this process. But I'll let you guys talk a little bit about why American campuses are so different.
Jessie, do you want me to start with this?
I can start, I think, just talking a little bit. So I think one of the differences is that people come here knowing what they're getting themselves into. Maybe not 100%, but people come here with the thought in their mind that they have to come and do the dialogue. Once a week, they have to sit together and they have to listen to each other for a couple of hours, talking about the most difficult topics that they possibly can talk about together. And they know that, and they sign up for that because it's something they want to do, something that's important and interesting for them. Now, I've never been in one of the dialogue sessions because I'm not supposed to, so I can't tell you exactly what's going on there. But I know that people cry, people get angry, people, I don't know, don't talk to each other afterwards. But people also don't have a choice because they live together. And they live together on a very small campus, and they share the rooms, and they share their meals, and they really get to know each other. And I studied at a relatively big university in Germany, and it's not as intimate. So I think one of the factors here is this intimacy, the knowledge that you are getting yourself into dialogue and that you're going to talk about this, the willingness to talk about it and to understand the other side, because you are coming from the place of, okay, I want to understand what's going on and why there is this conflict and what does the other side think. And I'm not sure that's the case on American campuses, not just in America, worldwide at the moment. What you see in the news are not people that want to understand the other side. What you see in the news are people that are angry and that have taken a side. And I think this is like one of the differences that we have here. So I don't think the dialogue we are doing here is something that you can copy and paste to American universities. I think that would be very, very difficult. Also, it's very hard to hate someone that you know very well, right? So if you are getting to know someone, they're not diving directly into dialogue and talking about these issues right in the beginning. They get to know each other, they get to meet each other, they become friends. Some people fall in love. So it's a very different setting. than what you have when it's very intimate, and when you can like just you just like be against someone, hate someone that you don't really know. So I think that's one of the few factors that makes it so different. Miri, your turn.
Yeah, I think also, again, there are several ways to think about it. I think one is really, I will mention it, but I think it's beyond this discussion. It's maybe for a different discussion. I think this is, you know, it regards the way, you know, the left, not in Israel, outside Israel, in the world, in the West, and progressivism, you know, becomes enmeshed with settler colonial theory, and also the particular ways in which settler colonial theory, you know, arrived to the street, was taken sometimes by campuses. So I think the bigger question here is, what's going on with this settler colonial theory? Is it helpful at all to use it in regards to Israel and Palestine? I think it's a big discussion, but I think in a nutshell, it pertains to other issues like the loneliness of some people in the West and their need to belong to something larger, a romantic, you know, an ethos of romantic and rebellious. So people find themselves or find in that new type of and the interpretation of settler colonialism that is very restorative, rather than, you know, a lot of even colonial and settler colonial theory doesn't aim at all for this pure return of Palestinians to Israel and the complete erasure of Israel. So there is a lot in terms of theory here that needs to be unpacked. But I can say in the nutshell, you know, as someone who taught Edward Said for years and years, there is a beautiful citation. I might send it in find it in a second, the exact words, and send it to you. And you see, this is a completely misuse of all those theories. And there is a reason, and I think the reason for the way they are being used now and interpreted and become kind of the flag of the Palestinian movement in the US, and particularly in US campuses, has also many social reasons. And I think we are in an entirely different place at the Arava Institute. I think, just like Jessica said, our students don't feel lonely. They don't feel a lack of community. I think that our students, I said the word de-abstracting Gaza at the beginning. I think our students see and experience an on-the-ground Israeli-Palestinian conflict. It's not in the abstract. It's not theory. There is no distance that enable demonize or create a really rigid, you know, binary from the other side, so-called from the left side. I also think there is a lot of, you know, there is a room to discuss here in general what is happening in the left and how exclusive and violent, you know, the left in the West right now can be in, you know, not containing and not holding to any nuances within itself, you know. So what at least what those people who call themselves the left now, we talk about it with the students, but I think our student experience is so different. And a lot of my Palestinian students from the past and from this semester told me, we feel like the universities in the US just hijacked our struggle for coexistence and for dualism. They use this word, that their struggle has been hijacked by extremists that don't even know what, you know, the meaning of being a Palestinian in Israel is. So I think this is something, you know, and it's a really harsh topic, Miriam, because, you know, we all have, you know, as an academic, I am supposed to go, you know, in February to tour the US. I'm invited to several campuses. One of them is Chicago. I studied in Berkeley. You can imagine the amount of conversation that I have with colleagues that are now in other campuses, but also in Berkeley. So I have a constant exchange. I was recruited on the first week of the war to work in explaining our position on campuses in the US. It was a horrific experience. But I do feel that so it's a question. I mean, how do I step into this tour, if I do it at all in February, you know, and what do I say? How can I look at these people and what can I say to them? These are questions that I'm still grappling with, but I do have, you know, a theory about what happened to theory and how it arrived to the street. And I think that maybe a topic for a different discussion, but I think the answer is also there.
Well, I want to thank you both. We're kind of coming to the end of the hour, and we like to be respectful of people's times. There are questions in the chat, but I think that, thank you, Miri, that you leave us on a sort of thoughtful note about a way to understand what's happening in North American and global campuses, beyond just saying it feels anti-Semitic to us, because it does. So I appreciate that very much. I just want our participants to know that there are campuses that have reached out to us to say, bring us this model, including starting with some of the Ivy League that has been most troubled. And we are looking at taking the dialogue and thinking about how we can not go out to the street, not just throw our alumni onto campus or even our faculty onto campus, without looking at how we can work with administrators and faculty on these campuses to explain how some of the tools of our toolkit work, of common interest, of common investment, of civil dialogue, of compassionate listening, and kind of taking the toolkit and thinking about how we bring that to US campuses via their own faculty and administrations. So thank you all for participating with us. I'm sorry we didn't get to everyone's questions. We can also follow up. Feel free to email to us. Sarah, if you can put some emails in the chat, we'll try and be as responsive as we can. And we really appreciate folks being here. And we very much appreciate Miri and Jessica participating with us, and also all the work they do at the Arava Institute, and that the beat goes on. We are a beacon of hope in a dark moment, and we really appreciate that you're doing the work and you're doing the support, and that we continue to do this great work for the world. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming also and listening to us.
Yes, thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining. Thank you for being interested, and thank you for your support.
Mm-hmm.